You're listening to the audio portion of Workshop Wednesdays. Workshop Wednesdays is a free live discussion about topics affecting accountants, bookkeepers, and business owners. You can join the ABBO group in Facebook to participate live Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Just search for ABBO in Facebook. This podcast is brought to you by Schoolofbookkeeping.com, where you will learn, grow, and build a thriving bookkeeping practice. We have hundreds of lessons with almost every aspect of the industry. Start your free month today at Schoolofbookkeeping.com. Welcome you to another Workshop Wednesday. This is very ad-libish. Is that a word?
I think so. We'll make it a word.
We're going to make it a word today.
It'll be a new word today.
Yeah. So we're actually going to talk about payroll. We talked about it a couple of days ago with our CBG partners. But there has been this year, there has been a lot of changes in the Intuit ecosystem of with regards to payroll. I mean, even just last year, we did a workshop on, what's new with QBO payroll. There was a whole new suite of payroll offerings for QBO, and looks like that has now taken center stage of the payroll offering. So, a little history, a little Intuit history. Because you cut your teeth on payroll and setting up payroll, right? That was how you started
before I even
servicing clients, right?
Right. Before I even became an official CPA, they made me do all kinds of things. And that was something people hated doing. And I was like, I love this. It didn't bother me. But so I know how to do it from the ground up. It's tedious. It's time consuming. You can't really charge what you can, you can't, it's hard to recoup a good fee on those.
Yeah. Why is it such a challenge as far as the, offering it as a professional service in your experience?
Well, for example, right here we use assisted payroll, and it's like 100 and something a month plus some nominal transaction fees. So if somebody touched my file twice a month, and they're billing at 150, they have their expense behind it. They wouldn't necessarily make any money on it. So to me, I just kind of shifted away from doing. I was focused really more on cleaning up and setting up and helping people run it using the full service payroll. I was always pushing those. Happy if I was able as a reseller to earn something, but just happier that the customer was being handled. And being a business owner myself, I don't want to get tax notices and worry about, oh my goodness, because back in the old days, you used to drive those checks to the bank. So,
yeah, I think you said something to me a couple of years ago or a few years ago that really kind of resonated. It only takes one tax notice to pay for your full service payroll service.
If that, goodness gracious, the fees, it'd be a couple thousand getting an accountant involved, and then the time and the heartache. And then, you hope to wipe out the penalties and interest, but you're racking up consulting fees or your time. So it's definitely not worth it. If you can automate wherever you can automate, even with your litter box, as I put it on Facebook today, anything you can automate to save you time and aggravation, do it. Yeah. So, and what's funny is that, like you said last year, these cycles that Intuit goes through, this is really what our company show could be on, is a couple years ago, Intuit full service payroll was all the rage. We got, we were incentivized to recommend it. I even tried it and I liked it, but I couldn't do job costing with it. So I abandoned it and went back to the assisted payroll full service desktop solution. That's named wrong, in my opinion. And it was neat to run that payroll because you could go on the beach and run it from your phone. And then there was an accountant edition, and that was IOP 4A. We didn't, as a reseller, we didn't really touch those, but those that were doing their own practice were, and they were making, from what I've heard, they were making really good money doing that. And I think that's like the big problem that you're hearing on the streets is, what do I do now? Right.
Yeah. So, so what happened, when I was working at Intuit, there was a, just like QuickBooks is desktop and online, there was a QuickBooks desktop payroll service and payroll solution. And there's two flavors of that. We'll just simplify it. There's two flavors. It's do it yourself, and then there's full service, which is done for you, which is called enhanced, and then assisted, right?
And that's not the topic of today.
Yeah, it's not the topic of today. And then QuickBooks Online had its own payroll service, and it was, when it first came out, it was garbage. Like, people did not like it at all. And what happened was that a couple ex-Intuit employees created a company called PayCycle, and Intuit then looked at that payroll solution and said, "Hey, that's kind of nice.
Why reinvent the wheel when you can acquire?"
Right. So they ended up reacquiring that PayCycle solution, payroll solution, and now, over the course of many, many years, they have been incorporating the PayCycle solution into QuickBooks Online, into the online payroll space. That meant that there was something in between QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online, which was a standalone payroll service called Intuit Online Payroll. Right, and there was, it was actually a white label a payroll service, like Bank of America, Costco, their payroll services was actually Intuit Online Payroll Services.
I wonder what they're going to do now.
That was the engine. I don't think they care, right? It's like they're just. So what's happening here is that Intuit Online Payroll, the middle of the road offering, is going away, and it was announced in May. It was May, and to this day, it is being delayed, right? Because and that's in Intuit's typical fashion. They make an announcement and then realize all the people that are impacted by that announcement, and then take a couple steps back and try to figure out what's actually the best thing to happen, because they didn't realize, all of the people that are impacted, because you don't hear from people who are just trucking along doing their own thing and enjoying it, right? I had one instance of the 18 years, not from me, from somebody else, who actually had a call from someone just to say everything's going okay. He was actually lonely.
Like, wow.
It was a QuickBooks for Mac guy, and he just wanted to call in and say he was actually lonely and wanted to talk to somebody. And he ended up talking to a friend of mine at work twice. He called him that day. It's like, everything's okay. I just want to talk to somebody.
Well, I'm glad you guys were sitting and waiting for his call.
Right. It was back when Tucson was a 24-hour call center. It was very late at night.
Oh, geez.
according to my friends.
Well, the products solve for two different things. So just focusing on the full service side, Intuit Online Full Service Pay, IFSP is what our acronym was. And what is solved for us as someone who's recommending QuickBooks is, if a client shows any kind of indication that I'm in desktop, but one day I may want to go to online, but online doesn't have the features I need. To me, I thought it's nice to have a standalone option that can import in either product. So that's that's the solution it helped me. And I voiced that loud, but not clear enough, because they did it anyway. Because I was like, this standalone product, is, if you want me to move people to, the stockholder people love online, I'm not going to do it unless it's the right fit for the client. But this way I can satisfy both needs. It can be less traumatic for the customer because the payroll doesn't move. The payroll stays put. Moving payroll from having to do it, basically crocheting the blanket by myself, all the way up. It's hard. You can't, you don't just start in July. You start January and you feed in all that detail into the file. So
And
one thing,
it was nice. What was nice about it is that it could work with any
right.
Intuit product, even Quicken. Like if you went into
Oh,
the
wow.
export preferences, and you chose your export options, Quicken was one of the options. So Mac, it was the payroll solution for QuickBooks for Mac because there was no, again, they get left out in the cold with
Right.
desktop solutions.
They're the unicorn
So
does.
Mac, Quicken, QuickBooks Desktop, and QuickBooks Online. Yeah, I just did it. They're Quicken Books, QuickBooks Online. It could go to anywhere, and it would do the same thing by sending checks. The financial impact of the checks, where it's not a journal entry or summarization. It would actually create the paychecks or create the checks for the employees in those different versions of QuickBooks. So it was a pretty awesome solution, and they had a
1099s.
Yeah, did 1099s, which is not a payroll, but
It's nice. It's a nice feature. So
technically a 1099 is a tax form, not a payroll form. But I digress.
So the story that continues, it gets very confusing. And I'll have to tell a side story from this, though, is that those people are getting moved into, drumroll, QBO payroll. They could be on desktop, but now they're in. So you see where they're going with this. They want you to embrace QBO, whether you're ready or not. There's your payroll. So,
and it makes to Intuit's perspective, it probably does make sense, right? So it's real easy to turn on your accounting software if you already are in the online space, and it's real easy to turn on payroll if your bookkeeping is already in the online space. So it really just adds, okay, well, if I'm doing QBO payroll, which is its own standalone service, I can add QuickBooks, and now I can do everything else that QuickBooks can do in online.
So what had happened to me was this. So I had a customer that was using Enterprise, and they were just starting to set up their inventory and all that beautiful workflow that Enterprise has, sales orders, right? Purchase orders, inventory.
All of your favorite topics.
All my favorite topics, and tracking inventory in different locations, da-di-da-di-da. They're just starting to make money. So they're trying to do it right. And they're starting to, start some payroll with their staff. I think it was starting with maybe 1 or 2 employees, but they're growing. And I said, oh, you're a perfect fit for assisted full service payroll. Not quite Diamond,
which is the desktop, which is the desktop, yeah,
and integrated. So it gives you all the beautiful stuff you want. And I said, Diamond does include it, but because there were only 1 or 2 employees, Diamond really wasn't the right fit. So we held off on that conversation. And I said, that may be your future upgrade while you're, until you grow. So, anyway, so they talked to the Intuit folks about, they wanted more information beyond what I gave them. I gave them great stuff, but they were like, I don't want to talk to you. So we connected them up with our rep. Our normal rep was on vacation, got someone else who said, oh, you're only 1 employee. Why don't we put you on QuickBooks Online Payroll, Premium Payroll, our new standalone product? And I was like, and then, so that's, brand confusion. And then I got phone calls for the next month about why didn't you put me in QuickBooks Online? And I had to go. So it's like I had to resell the product from years ago.
So I mean, that's a very good point, because if you have online, QuickBooks Online Payroll, and then a QuickBooks Desktop for your bookkeeping, now it's a very confusing story, just like you've illustrated. Well, like, why do I have QuickBooks Online Payroll and not Desktop Payroll, and why am I not using the rest of my QuickBooks in online? Because they are the same name.
And then there's a pricing thing, because Assisted has a lifetime discount, Premium doesn't. I don't even know what the price is, but I was like, it didn't make any sense to me. So I think it might have been, maybe they asked some questions about HR and benefits and 401k for her future. Remember, one employee.
Right.
So anyway, so what do we do with these?
Yeah. So what's happening? Let's talk about what's happening, right? So anyone who is currently on Intuit Online Payroll is going to get migrated to QuickBooks Online Payroll, because it does move. I mean, it does import into desktop, and obviously you can turn on QuickBooks Online and then get it into online. Now, another challenge is, well, what if I already have QuickBooks, for my QuickBooks Online, and now I have QuickBooks Online Payroll as the standalone. They're not the same. They're not in the same one, because. But you can send your data, just like you did in Intuit Online Payroll. But now you've got two services. So now on top of that, on top of the confusion of what your scenario, you have now a client who's got QuickBooks Online and then QuickBooks Online Payroll, and they're two separate.
Yeah, she also had hosting, so
on top of all that. Right? Yeah. So anyone who has Intuit Online Payroll is transitioning or migrating into a QBO payroll.
So it's either the service. Basic,
right? If they're current, just like desktop has enhanced and assisted, online has enhanced. Thank goodness they use the same terminology, enhanced and full service is what they call it. There's no assisted; it's just full service, right? But they're on the same par, right? Whatever happened, you do the payroll, you submit the paychecks. It's what happens next is whether it's enhanced. So if you're on enhanced, you're paying the liabilities and filing the forms, but the full service or assisted will do that, pay that liability, the payroll liabilities, and file the forms for you before they're due, so that you don't get those tax notices. All right. So that's what's happening. So if they're already in an enhanced Intuit Online Payroll, they're going to go into Core, which is QBO Core Payroll, which is a full service payroll service, right? So you do have the option to turn off the ability to automatically file and pay your taxes. Why you'd want to do that? Not sure, but some people want to have that. Some people want to have that. I got to do it, right? But I've taken far too many calls of, it's not January 31st yet, but it says I can't pay it yet, and they're not realizing that there's a funding lead time that they have to do, and then now they're late, right?
Right.
But I digress. But you can't. All of the QuickBooks Online Payroll services are full service payroll services, meaning that your taxes and form filings are going to be done for you. So if you're on enhanced, you're going to go move to Core. If you're on the Intuit full service payroll, you're going to go to premium. There is a third tier called Elite, which adds more features and functionality and more charges, right? So more fees, right? So that's what's happening. And
what's the price for these folks?
Yeah, so there's a base price and then there's a per employee price. So it just depends on the flavor. So Core, the base price is $45 a month, and then $4 for each employee. Doesn't matter the frequency of pay, or doesn't matter how many times you pay them, or whether it's direct deposit or paper checks. It's just $4 for each employee.
Now, when they were in IOP 4A, that was different because the pro advisor was paying that fee and it was discounted, and then the customer was paying the pro advisor. So that's quite a price hike from what pro advisors used to pay.
Yeah. Well, like the way that the IOP for A worked is that it was based on the number of clients. So the first client was $39, and then the second client, both clients were now $19. So it now gave you an immediate break. And originally it was 50 cents per employee. But then they changed the price to like $2 or $2.50 or something like that. I don't remember what.
Ever.
It was after I left and I wasn't paying attention. Uh, but the more tiers that you got, so then when you got up to 11, it went down to $16 for the base. All of this was enhanced. This wasn't the full service, right? So all the way up to 51. Once you got past 51, everyone was $9.99, right? So we had that base price. So if you have 50 clients, only paying you're only paying $10 for the for the service, and then the per employee charge, which say it's $2. Now you're going everyone is going to at least core, which is $45 a month, and $4 for each employee. It's a big jump, right?
And the discount is
the discount is
lifetime, 6 months.
If they're just like the wholesale billing for QuickBooks Online, you have the accountant firm build option with QuickBooks or Intuit Online Payroll. And now you have the same thing with QuickBooks Online Payroll, where you can do those separately or all in and of the same. I don't know how that's going to look, and I don't want to. But the promise is that you would have a perpetual discount, which is 30% off the base fee and 15% off of the employee fee. So that $4 is now what? I can't do the math in my head. For 15% of $4, which is $3, and I don't know. You're breaking out your calculator.
Yes.
And then they threw this curveball.
$3.40.
$3.40. But if you're on premium, that is now $75 is the base price, and $8 for each employee, because you have included QuickBooks Time as part of that. If you're on Elite, that base price is $125 and $10 per employee. And then they threw this curveball in, I think last week, which was, hey, if you adopt before July or June of 2022, for those large companies, we'll give you a break on those employees over 10. So after the 11th employee, it's $250 for each employee on core, but it's $6, and I can't even remember what the pricing is. It's now mind-boggling the pricing when you as the accounting firm are paying the price for that, and then carrying that off to your clients, as far as you're eating the service cost, and then recouping that as a fee for your client. I can't see that being a viable option when somebody could just go and run it themselves, right? I mean, even if they chose Elite, and that's $125 in the per employee cost, that's everything done for you as far as QuickBooks is the payroll is concerned.
To hire somebody to do it,
right? And if they tried to recoup that, with the 30% discount and the per employee fee, I don't know how much your time is actually worth as far as what you would actually be doing. And the nice part about payroll is it's like a crock pot, right? I mean, you're once you put things in there, you're pretty well done, setting things up. And then the features of auto payroll, if everyone's on salary, boom, I mean, the payroll gets run automatically, and then the taxes get paid automatically, and and then the forms are filed on time, and even Intuit would stand by that with a guarantee, and if there was a mistake, the Elite payroll service goes to bat for you. So there is some advantages to that, but what Intuit Online Payroll for accountants is not what it is today.
It's gone.
Yeah. So I can't see that being a challenge or a winning solution for for somebody who did that before and wants to continue to do that in the Intuit QuickBooks payroll offerings. Thoughts?
So they're scrambling for replacements, I would think. And then avoiding like what I had. Well, the accountants or even the customers that are using that independent IFSP and they don't want to use QBO, they're still in the desktop world. It just doesn't feel like the right fit. So between that and then also getting asked for, sometimes we might have projects that come across that have more than the limit of the employees as well. Or they say, we need workers' comp, we need insurance, we need PEO and all these things, HR, stuff like that. Now, one of the QBOs has some HR like help guide or something, but not.
Yeah, so the premium has an HR
library
guide. Yeah, like a library that you can go into. The Elite actually has an HR contact, like you can work with. Mammoth HR, I think, is the company they've partnered with, and then you actually have someone that you can actually work with as far as HR related issues, which doesn't exist in desktop, right? I mean, there is zero HR options when it comes to any of the desktop options, right?
We just sort of, when people ask, we just change the subject. So, wait, I didn't hear that.
Look over there. Sorry, you're breaking up. I'm going through a tunnel.
Yeah, we used to have something, but again, it just vanished with IFSP. So
what this is allowing people to do, I mean, something's going to change regardless of what happens, right? I mean, if you do nothing, something is going to change, right? You're going to be in, if you had clients in IOP, they're going to be in QBO payroll if you do nothing. And then that's something new to learn. Like, how do I get that? How do they end up getting there? I mean, Janice, one of our partners, I mean, she had a horrible experience with a client who got migrated to QBO payroll. They were already on QBO. And then how do they get their data into QuickBooks Online, even though it's already in QBO payroll? So that was confusing. And there is an export option, and it does export to QuickBooks from QBO payroll. But again, why would you need to export if you're already in that online space? So it's allowing people. I mean, I would take this as an opportunity to evaluate other payroll options, right? You're going to need to change something anyway, and there's not going to be an exact replacement for what you're doing. Maybe take an option and take a moment and evaluate other payroll options that are out there. I mean, we have on the School of Bookkeeping, we have choosing the right payroll service, and we talk about these different desktop options and the online options. And then the third-party options that do integrate with QuickBooks. Maybe it's an opportunity to do that if it's not an exact match. I mean, my tax accountant, he does payroll services and used Intuit payroll, Intuit Online Payroll for accountants. And every time they made a change, he assumed that I had some pull. It's like your company. Like, it's not my company. Like, this is not me doing the changes here. It's like, you basically doubled my fees, to fee, and then he has to figure out how to collect that from his clients. Like, do I eat it, or do I, increase my prices because the costs are going up? But it's a good opportunity, I think, to look at what else is out there. And next week, we're going to be joined by one of those such offerings. It's folks at ADP. They're going to join us to talk about their payroll offerings. And my introduction to ADP was actually as an Intuit employee, because Intuit's payroll was done by ADP. And one of the things that I've learned about ADP is that they're not just for the Coca-Colas of the world. They're not they can do small business to, 1, 2, 3 employees, all the way up to. So having that in as an option in your payroll services suite is actually not a bad idea to have that.
Yeah. And then when you get asked questions about, you're talking to somebody chugging along and they're asking questions about their employee count, and you realize, oh, they're at the limit of what QuickBooks can do, but there's nothing more complicated about them than anyone else. They just need heftier payroll. Then, we've found that they are really good to look at for that. So not to give too much away.
Yeah. So we'll have them join us next week, and they'll talk about their payroll offerings and how they work with QuickBooks, and how that might be a great replacement for the Intuit Online Payroll standalone option, or all of your payroll options. If you're not even in that market, for payroll, but your clients do need a payroll offering. I think Avalara said it best: do what you do best and outsource the rest. So if you don't even want to touch payroll, why not hand it off to the experts who that's what they love to do for some reason.
Yeah. I like to set it and forget it myself. But.
All right. So we will see you next week on another Workshop Wednesday, and hopefully I'll be shaved and we'll be in our regular uniform and everything. So
we'll just stay tuned to where I land. I think I'll be in the
who knows where Carrie will be by then.
Until next time, have a great week.
Have a great day. Bye.